Rumpelstiltskin. In the far off times, there lived a poor miller and his daughter, Lily. Lily was kind and clever and good, but the miller was a show-off who liked to tell tall tales. Lily was in love with the prince, but was too poor to be his wife. So the miller went to the king and boasted about his daughter. "She can spin straws into pure gold," he said. The king was delighted and summoned Lily to the castle. There, he took her to a turret and showed her a bale of straw. "Spin it into gold by morning, and you may marry my son," he said. Then he locked the door. But of course, Lily had no idea what to do, and stamped her foot crossly. At this sound, a goblin appeared. "Give me your necklace, and I will spin the straw into gold," he said. Lily's necklace had belonged to her mother, so she did not want to give it away. Yet she did want to marry the prince, so she agreed. The goblin was as good as his word and spun the straw into reels of gold. The king was pleased, but he was also greedy. He took Lily to another turret with 2 bales of straw. "Spin it into gold by morning, and you may marry my son," he said. Then he locked the door. Again, Lily stamped her foot, and again the goblin appeared. "Give me your ring, and I will spin the straw into gold for you," he said. Lily gave him the ring, and the goblin spun the straw into reels of gold. The king smiled when he saw the gold, but it made him greedier still. He took Lily to another turret with 3 bales of straw. "Spin it into gold by morning, and you may marry my son," he said. Then he locked the door. Again, Lily stamped her foot, and again the goblin appeared. "I have nothing left to give you," she said, "but I need your help." So the goblin thought and replied, "Give me your first child, and I will spin the straw into gold." Lily, who did not much care for babies, agreed, and the goblin spun the straw into reels of gold. This time the king kept his word, and Lily married the prince. The years passed, and in her happiness, Lily forgot that she did not much care for babies. She and the prince had a little boy. They called him Tom. Lily also forgot her promise to the goblin. But goblin did not forget. On Tom's first birthday, he came to the castle and said, "Give me your baby." Lily could not bear to be parted from Tom, and offered the goblin gold instead. But the goblin said Tom was the only treasure he wanted. But as I have told you, Lily was a clever girl. "If I can guess your name, will you let me keep Tom?" she said. "I will give you 3 days," said the goblin, "but you will not win. The child will be mine." Lily set to work. On the first day, she wrote down all the boys' names she had heard of. When the goblin came that evening, she said, "Is your name Adam?" "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." "Is it Ahmed?" asked Lily. "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." Lily tried Akim and Anton and Hassan and Hans. Each time the goblin said the same thing. "No, that's not my name." On the second day, Lily went to the castle library and wrote down all the boys' names she hadn't heard of. When the goblin came that evening, she said, "Is your name Achilles?" "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." "Is it Axel?" asked Lily. "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." Lily tried. "Karine? And Casper? And Santos? And Solomon?" Each time the goblin said the same thing. "No, that is not my name." On the third day, Lily had run out of ideas, so she went for a long walk into town. She walked around the market, listening out for anyone with a different name. The only names she found in the market were ones she had already tried, like James, Jack, and Jonas. Lily had almost given up hope when she saw a market stall selling reels of thread. A little man was singing to himself as he stacked them in neat piles. He sang, "My name is not Joe, my name is not Jim, my name is Rumpelstiltskin." Lily smiled, because she could see that little man was the very same goblin who wanted to take Tom away. When the goblin came that evening, she pretended not to know. "Is your name Gumboot?" she said. "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." "Is it Marmalade?" asked Lily. "No," smiled the goblin. "That is not my name." Lily tried Slurp and Squelch and Mutton and Tintin, but each time the goblin said the same thing. "No, that is not my name." Then Lily had one last guess. "Is your name Rumpelstiltskin?" she asked. The goblin stamped his foot so hard it went through the floor. He pulled with all his might, but he was stuck fast. Lily offered to help him, as long as he vanished forever. The angry goblin disappeared. Tom stayed in the castle with Lily and the prince, and for all I know, they are living there still. Baba Yaga. Once upon a time, there was a little Russian girl called Natasha. Her mother had died when she was a baby, but she and her father were very happy until he got married again. That is, Natasha was sweet, kind, and clever, yet her father's new wife hated her and was horrible when he wasn't around. One day, her stepmother told Natasha she had a special job for her to do. "I need to borrow a needle and thread from my sister," said the stepmother with a wicked grin. "Off you go now. She lives deep in the forest, and her name is Baba Yaga." Natasha's heart sank. She knew her stepmother was up to something. Natasha didn't like the sound of this sister. She had heard some people say that Baba Yaga was an evil witch. Natasha tried hard to get out of it, but her stepmother said she had to go. So Natasha sighed, tied up some scraps of food in an old napkin to keep her going, and headed toward the dark wood. "I have a bad feeling about this," she muttered, as she walked alone. She walked across the fields and into the forest, and she came at last to a clearing. There she saw the strangest sight, a hut standing on a giant chicken legs. Natasha opened the gate, and it squeaked almost as if it was in a pain. "Why, you poor thing," she said, and gave it some oil from a can she found nearby. Next, A big scary dog roared at her. She calmed him down with some food from her napkin and some kind words. Then Baba Yaga herself appeared. She had burning red eyes and teeth made of iron. Natasha gulped. "Please, Baba Yaga," she said. "Your sister wants to borrow a needle and thread." "Is that so?" said the witch. She licked her thin lips and looked Natasha up and down. "Well, you'd better come and wait in my hut while I find them, my dear." Baba Yaga whistled and the hut came running over. Natasha climbed up nervously and stood in the gloom. The only light came from a big iron stove in the corner. "Make yourself at home," said Baba Yaga with a wicked smile. "I will be back in a moment. It's getting late. Perhaps you'd like to stay for dinner?" The witch didn't wait for an answer and hurried off. Natasha peeped out. She saw Baba Yaga wasn't looking for a needle and thread at all. She was fetching wood for the stove. "You do realize you're the only item on the menu, don't you?" hissed the soft voice behind Natasha. "Baba Yaga just loves to eat sweet little girls." Natasha turned around. A terribly thin black cat came out of the shadows. "Well, I knew she wasn't very nice," said Natasha with a frown.
"And I can see she doesn't feed you much either."
"Here, have my last few scraps of food." "What a kind girl you are," said the cat, surprised. "You know, I might be able to help you." "Take these and run for your life," said the cat. He gave her a towel, a comb, and a small stone. "Throw each one behind you when Baba Yaga gets close." Natasha thanked the cat and quietly jumped down from the hut. The dog saw her go but didn't bark, and the gate opened and closed without a squeak. The witch was very cross indeed when she found out her dinner had run off. "You should have warned me," she yelled at the cat, the dog, and the gate. "Why?" said the cat. "She was nice to us, and you've always been horrid." Baba Yaga scowled and stamped her foot. Then she hurried off after Natasha. Natasha ran down the forest path as fast as she could go. Soon she noticed all the little forest creatures overtaking her. Baba Yaga wasn't far behind. "You might as well give up now," yelled the witch. "You won't get away." Natasha kept running, but Baba Yaga was on the point of catching her. Suddenly, Natasha remembered the things she was carrying and the wise words of the cat. She threw the towel behind her, and it turned into a raging river between her and the witch. "Bother!" shouted Baba Yaga, shaking her fist. "Phew!" thought Natasha. But Baba Yaga simply drank the river, and Natasha ran off once more. She shot out of the forest and headed across the fields, Baba Yaga closing in behind her. Natasha threw the comb over her shoulder, and it turned into another forest. "Bother!" screamed Baba Yaga, shaking her fist.
Before Natasha could even think phew, the witch started chewing a path through the trees.
Baba Yaga kept on coming, and Natasha knew she only had one chance left. The witch was almost on top of her when she threw the small stone, and this time Baba Yaga was bitten. The stone turned into a mountain. "Serves you right," said Natasha with a smile. Then she headed for home. Her stepmother was very surprised to see her. Natasha told her father all about what had happened and how her stepmother had planned it all alone. He was so cross, he told his wife to pack her bags and get out of their lives forever. "Good riddance to bad rubbish," he said. Natasha smiled. She had to agree.
Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Cinderella. She had a loving father, but he was often away. Her stepmother didn't like her, nor did her bad-tempered stepsisters. They made Cinderella stay in the kitchen all day long, washing dishes, sweeping floors, and looking after the fire. She even slept in the kitchen among the cinders. One day they came running into the kitchen. "Look, Cinderella, an invitation from the king," cried the sulky one. "We're going to a ball," cried the stroppy one. "At the palace." "Us, not you," they added, smirking. They began to argue about shoes and dresses. They were still arguing on the night of the ball when poor Cinderella had to help them get dressed. When they had gone, she couldn't help feeling sad. "I wish I could go to the ball," she sighed. Suddenly, the gloomy kitchen lit up. Flash! "You can, my dear." Looking up, Cinderella saw a kind old lady. "Well, what? Who are you?" "I'm your fairy godmother," said the old lady. "And I say you can go to the ball." "But how?" cried Cinderella. "In a coach, of course." The fairy godmother laughed. She sent Cinderella into the garden to get a pumpkin. Then she waved her magic wand. Flash! The pumpkin turned into a golden coach. "Now you need horses," said the fairy godmother. "Let these mice out of the cage, please." Cinderella did as she was told. The fairy godmother waved her wand and flash! 4 white horses stood before the golden coach. "Now," said the fairy godmother, pointing her wand at the cat, "all you need is a jolly coachman." Flash! "Now you can go to the ball," she cried. But Cinderella looked down at her old clothes. "What about my dress?" "Oh," laughed the fairy godmother, "I nearly forgot." She waved her wand again, and flash! Looking down, Cinderella saw the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. "Put these on too," said the fairy godmother, giving her a pair of slippers made of glass. They fitted perfectly. "Now you really are ready," said the fairy godmother. "Have fun. Just remember one thing. You must be home by midnight." When the clock strikes 12, all my magic will end. Your coach will turn back into a pumpkin, and your beautiful clothes will once again be rags. "I will remember," cried Cinderella, as she climbed eagerly into the coach. "Thank you very much." Then the coachman flicked his whip, and the horses galloped into the starry night. Meanwhile, on the steps of the palace, the prince was bored. So many coaches, so many princesses, so many people to greet. Then another coach pulled up and out stepped Cinderella. Who is she? he asked, for he had never seen anyone so lovely. But no one could tell him. No one knew who she was, not even her stepsisters. The stepsisters did not recognize Cinderella, even when they got close, but they did feel jealous. "Why does the prince not looking at us?" they cried. For the prince looked only at Cinderella. "Why does he not dance with us?" they cried. When the prince asked Cinderella to dance again and again, for he had fallen in love with her. As for Cinderella, she could hardly believe what was happening. A handsome prince was dancing with her. She was so happy that she forgot the fairy godmother's warning, even when the clock started to strike midnight. 1, 2, 3, she danced on. 4, 5, 6, she danced on. 7, 8, 9. Suddenly she remembered and began to run toward the door. "Come back! Come back!" called the prince. But Cinderella kept on running. 10. She reached the door and ran down the steps as fast as she could. One of her slippers fell off, but still she kept running. 11. "Come back! Come back!" She heard the prince calling as she looked around wildly. 12. "Where are my coach and horses?" she cried. Sadly, she began to walk home, back to the kitchen. "I will never see the prince again," she sighed. Meanwhile, the prince was determined to find the beautiful princess with whom he had fallen in love. "Tomorrow, I will search every house in the land until I find the owner of this glass slipper," he cried. "Then I will marry her." Early next day, he set off with his page to begin the search. It was evening when they came to the house where Cinderella lived. The stepsisters were waiting. "Me first!" screamed one. "No, me!" cried the other. First one, then the other tried to get her foot into the slipper. "Sorry," said the page. "Yours is too wide and yours is too long. Does anyone else live here?" "Me," said Cinderella, who had come in quietly. "Could I try?" "You?" laughed the stepsisters. "Get back to the kitchen." But they were too late. The page put the slipper on Cinderella's foot, and it was a perfect fit. The prince was gazing at her full of love. "Will you marry me?" he said. "Yes," said Cinderella, who could see that he loved her even in rags. The prince was as kind as he was handsome. Cinderella was as happy as she ever thought she could be. So they were married and lived together till the end of their days in perfect harmony. Aladdin. Far away in the land the swallows fly to in winter, lived a poor widow and her son Aladdin. They worked hard and owned little, but Aladdin had big dreams of gold and rubies and diamonds. One day a strange man came to the house, claiming he was Aladdin's uncle. "I can make you rich," he said, with a glint in his eye, "if you will help me find my lamp." "Rich?" asked Aladdin, his eyes sparkling like jewels. He took Aladdin into the desert. They rode for days. Finally, they arrived at a trapdoor in some rocks and he sent Aladdin through it into a cave. Frightened, Aladdin crept through the dark until he found the lamp. Aladdin asked his uncle to help him out. "Hand me the lamp first, boy," his uncle said. But Aladdin was scared in the darkness and begged, "No, please help me, uncle." His uncle became angry, and in his rage he threw magic dust over the trapdoor and sealed it up. Aladdin was alone in the cold, dark cave. He looked at the lamp and began to cry. Big shining tears fell onto the lamp. Aladdin wiped the tears from the lamp, and suddenly a genie appeared. "You have 3 wishes," he said. "What is your first wish, oh master?" "I wish to go home," said Aladdin. In the blink of an eye, Aladdin found himself in his kitchen. He told his mother of his mean uncle, the trapdoor, and the cave. "That man is not your uncle," she said. "He is a wicked sorcerer." Aladdin showed his mother the lamp. When he rubbed it, the genie appeared again. "What is your second wish, O master?" asked the genie. "I wish to be rich," said Aladdin. In the blink of an eye, a chest of treasure appeared. Aladdin and his mother bought a new house near to the palace, where they lived happily for many years. They forgot all about wicked sorcerer. In the palace lived Princess Yasmin. She was kind and clever, and as beautiful as the desert sunrise. Aladdin had grown into a handsome young man. He was strong and patient, and good to his mother. Aladdin had liked the princess from afar for a long time. One day they met in the palace gardens and fell in love. They talked about days about how the world was round and why camels slept standing up. Soon they were married, and the whole of the kingdom came to celebrate. But one man in the crowd was not smiling. It was the wicked sorcerer who wanted Yasmin for himself. He became angry at Aladdin once again. "This is all because Aladdin has my lamp," he said to himself. "I must get it back." The wicked sorcerer thought long and hard until he came up with a wicked plan. He bought himself hundreds of lamps and dressed as a lamp seller. When Aladdin was away traveling with his mother, the sorcerer walked past the palace calling, "New lamps for old, new lamps for old." Princess Yasmin knew nothing of the genie in the lamp. When she heard the lamp seller, she thought, "I will swap that dirty old lamp for a shiny new one. Aladdin will be pleased." As soon as he had the lamp in his hands, the wicked sorcerer rubbed it, and the genie appeared. "What is your wish, O master?" he said. The sorcerer smiled. "Take us far away," he said, "where Aladdin will never find us." The genie did as he had been asked, and flew the wicked sorcerer and Princess Yasmin to a land far, far away. When Aladdin got home and found Princess Yasmin and the lamp gone, he knew the sorcerer had taken them. He bowed to search without stopping until he found his precious Yasmin. Aladdin searched the whole of the city, but he did not find the princess. Then he searched the whole of the kingdom, yet still he did not find the princess. Aladdin did not give up easily. He set off to search another kingdom, where the sun was hotter and the days longer, and the nights darker than oil. Aladdin searched far and wide, and high and low. He searched for a year and a day. Still he did not find the princess. Then early one morning he came across a house in the desert. Thirsty, he knocked on the door for a glass of water. To his surprise, Princess Yasmin answered. Aladdin was overjoyed. Luckily, the sorcerer was asleep, so the princess told Aladdin of the wicked sorcerer and the genie in the lamp, and how he had wished them far, far away. She told him of the sorcerer's many magic powders. They could lock any door, turn mice into tigers, make men grow into giants, or shrink until they disappeared. The sorcerer was still asleep. Aladdin quickly searched for the shrinking powder, and when he found it, he told the princess to put it in the sorcerer's tea. Then he hid. When the sorcerer woke up, he drank his tea and instantly began to shrink. He grew as small as a mouse, then as small as a pin. Then he disappeared altogether in a little puff of smoke. Aladdin rubbed his lamp again, and the genie appeared. "What is your third wish, O master?" he asked. "Please take us home," said Aladdin. In the blink of an eye, Aladdin and the princess found themselves back at home. There they lived happily ever after.